All right, Panther fans. So I got a surprise for you here. Matt Superfan and I, we
Mhm.
tried this. Did we try? We must have tried three times,
Three, four times,
three
I
or
think.
four times before the season started to get this to happen. And the hockey guys just did not like my Wi-Fi, his Wi-Fi. No matter what we did, we couldn't get it worked out. So Matt reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and said, "Hey man, let's make this happen." So for those of you who do not know who Matt is, we just call him Superfan. Like people call me Jaws. Everybody just calls him Superfan. If you've seen him on, he got a lot of airtime, by the way, this season. There was a lot of airtime with Matt on TV. He's the guy that wears the cape, the whole outfit.
Feel a
And
little underdressed here. Let me
yeah, there
just,
we go.
I can't attach it, but there we
Right.
go.
There we go. So that's the first thing I want Matt to talk about is because I've kind of heard the story a couple of times, but then our Wi-Fi would continue to cut out, and I never
Yeah.
really heard the whole thing. So I want to hear the story. Tell us all the story about how Superfan was born.
All right. Well, I've been a hockey fan long before we had the Panthers. I used to be a Blues fan because I briefly lived in Missouri. And when we moved back to Florida, we got ourselves a team. So I'm like, that's my team. So fan since expansion. And I'd go to as many games as I could. But I wasn't able to get season tickets until 99 because I was still in high school and college. And then when I got that, I was just at every game. And there was this one game where they were, giving stuff away. They had like the prize wheel that they have at some of the events. And I won a giant oversized beach towel, giant Florida Panthers beach towel with the leaping cat and broken stick. It was really cool. So as a joke, I whipped the towel around on my back and wore it like a cape and ran around going, "I'm Superfan." And all my friends thought it was a big joke and everybody's laughing and having a good time. But we won that game.
Right.
And so I said, you know what? I'm not superstitious or nothing, but let me wear it to another game. Right. And then I did, and we won that game.
We won that game.
And then we won the next one. And I think we won 4 or 5 in a row.
Right.
I think it was. And after that, everybody in my section, it just kind of stuck.
Right.
So I just had a beach towel with a jersey. The jersey I showed you before we started, like my own personalized jersey. Right. I would stuck a beach towel down the back of this thing and run around like making like whooshy sounds like whoosh.
Right.
So at the end of that year, I started dating my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and her mom is a seamstress.
Gotcha.
And she told her mom about this, and she gave me this look, and I was like, "Uh-oh. She's gonna think I'm a freaking lunatic." And she says, "If you're gonna do it right." So she spent a few weeks, and she made me by hand.
Wow.
This was my first cape with the old logo with the broken stick.
With the broken stick. Oh, nice.
And she's made a couple more. I've got the new one I wear, over there.
Right.
And it was fun, but it started to be more than that because it was we were going into the Yormac years.
Yeah.
Attendance was very low. There was talk of moving the team.
Yep.
So I thought, maybe I shouldn't do this for fun. Maybe I should be Superfan for real.
Right.
Try to hype up the crowd and get everybody excited. When we'd score a goal, I'd jump up, I'd run up and down the stairs. I was in the upper deck then, doing, whooshing my cape and like yelling and screaming, and people liked it. It got to a point where people were coming out to the game and bringing like their little kids to see me, not even to see the game necessarily. Right. And then Vinny, let's give it apart. So so that had been going on for a couple of years. And then in 2003, they had this contest called the Seventh Man.
Right.
And they said, write a little essay about why you think that you're the seventh man of your team. Well, I won. And part of the prize was this jersey. I'm going to take it down off my wall here. And since it was 2003,
right,
they said 03.
Oh, nice.
And it says the seventh man on it.
Nice.
And since then, that has been my number.
Nice.
And it was kind of funny. When they showed it to me before they presented it to me before the game, I'm like, I don't want to sound like a diva, but I can't have that number. And they're like, what? Why? Because I read it as 3. And I said, that's Mr. Laws's number. No, I can't take that. You have to give me another number. And they kind of laughed. They're like, no. See, Paul Laws is 3.
Right.
You're 0-3. So it's different. And I'm like, okay, you put it like that. Oh yeah, 0-3 will be very excellent. Thank you.
Right. Oh man.
So, and I've been super fan ever since. I come out and I just do the same thing. I try to get people hyped up for the game, you know, staying behind the team, win or lose. And when Doug Sifu and Vinny Viola came along, I thought I need to get even more visible because I was in the upper deck where I started when I was just out of college. And I had gotten a better job, gotten, you know, bit better off financially.
Right.
So I moved downstairs in when they bought the team 2013, and I go to select a seat and I see that there's one seat by itself behind the Panther goal in like that corner. And I'm like, how much is that one? And the ref goes, well, you don't want that one. I'm like, why not?
Why
not? He says, well, it's just one row. You'll be by yourself. You can't like bring friends to the game and everything. And I said, you're new to this sales thing, aren't you?
Yeah.
If the customer says, I want that one.
Right.
The only thing you should say, yes, sir, right away.
Yeah.
So I got like a foot of room of like leg room because I'm on top of the Zamboni tunnel. So it's like the exit row of an airplane. I don't have to get up, sit down when people come in. I got plexiglass on 2 sides of me.
Nice.
So I called it, I said, if Superfan is going to sit here, it has to be called the Row of Solitude. And that's what it's been.
No, that's perfect, man. You know, I mean, geez, you get on it.
I'm a tall guy, so I'm about 6'5".
Right. Yeah, that's tall.
So I get cramped up, you know, sitting if I'm not like in a front row.
Right.
People think, why don't you sit with us? You think, you know, you're like above it. And I'm like, no, not at all. It's just because people always say that when they see me on TV, then they meet me at the game. They're like, wow, you look taller than on TV.
Yeah, I get it. I get the opposite. Man. I get the opposite effect. I get
the opposite.
I get the opposite. Like, I thought you were taller.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I get nothing's what you expect.
No, that's you know as well as I do. The camera can play tricks, right?
Yeah.
The camera can really, you know. I know. I watch some of my videos and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how the lighting works, but I can imagine how it is for the stars and everything. Because if I have the lighting right, I can look like there's no wrinkles. It's like this perfectly toned complexion. Right. And I'm like, yeah, no, no. Well, man, I love that story. And it's funny about the sales rep, because I mean, that's like the golden ticket for a sales rep in terms of nobody wants one seat. So if somebody comes and says, hey, I want one seat, they should be all over that. Right.
There's like no pitch, no effort. Like,
right.
Hey, he says he wants it. I didn't even have to pitch it. Like, okay, here you go. Sign this.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So now I know you've probably had a ton of fun doing this. And I obviously, you know, I haven't been doing the videos as long as you've been super fan, but I know how it goes in terms of a lot of times it's the accidental stuff. You're not doing it on purpose.
Right.
And that's the stuff that ends up, you know, becoming popular. I'm curious because you mentioned like if I have a blooper on screen, I'll leave it in, you know what I mean? I'll misspeak or whatever. I'm curious because you mentioned like you started running up and down the stairs and everything. So did like anything ever funny happen where like Superman fell flat on his ass after running around over the stairs, or trip over your cape or something good like that?
Well, the cape is designed. I had that in mind when I designed it. It's detachable. When I attach it, it's attached with Velcro. So I've stepped on it several times going to jump out of my chair after a goal, and it just pops off.
It just pops off, right?
It doesn't tug or like trip me or anything like that.
Right.
But I'm gonna knock on wood here.
Yeah.
No,
good.
I have not fallen flat on. Well, that's not exactly true. At home, I've never fallen flat on my face.
Right.
In Nashville. In between preseason games when they had that doubleheader, I wasn't like looking where I was doing, and there was like a step off.
Oh.
I like stumbled forward and went face first into like a post.
Oh,
Like bam.
right.
And I'm like, but that wasn't too bad.
That's not too bad. No, that's
and
not
it was
too
outside
bad.
the arena. It was after the game. So
Right.
it
Now
wasn't during.
you can blame me game one when the camera's on you and something happens. You could blame me for bringing up the possibility of it.
Well, that's why I knocked on the wood. But
yeah, exactly.
The next game we play is in Nashville, the preseason doubleheader.
That's right.
And I'm going.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. That'll be fun. That'll be
like
fun.
All the Panther faithful that might be watching this. $110 Spirit Airlines on that day. Get it.
That's not bad. How do the fans of other teams react to you when you show up?
The only place I've really gotten like bad was Tampa. Because I've been to Tampa, Atlanta when they had a team, Carolina, Long Island, Chicago a bunch of times, Nashville. Nobody really, they don't care.
Right.
The Chicago fans are starting to care because they used to kick our butts. I used to go every year because my mom retired and went to Milwaukee. She had season tickets with me way back in the day. So I usually fly up for the Chicago game and drive her down from Milwaukee.
Right.
And we'd get killed. That's when Quenneville was there and they had the 3 cups in 6 years. Yeah. We used to get stomped.
Well, it's like you're mentioning.
But we won the last 3 I've been to. So now they're kind of like, all right, we're getting sick of you.
Yeah. Get this guy out. Yeah. It'll be like Tampa. They'll be like, no fans in capes allowed or some kind of dress code, right?
Well, I haven't been to Tampa since 2009, I think it was. It was a game where both teams were not going to make the playoffs, and it was the last game of the year. And, not really much to play for, but for whatever reason, the Panthers just lit them up.
Oh.
And when they went up with 2 minutes left, 7-0, they were still pressing. They scored. I jumped up and I went, touchdown, Panthers!
Uh-oh.
And then came the beer shower. I don't know what the people of Tampa do for a living. They can afford to throw $12 beers around, but they were.
That's funny.
A guy mooned my mother.
Oh,
just whipped the pants down, just right in front of a cop too.
This is in Tampa.
This was in Tampa, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm looking at the cop like, this has got to be some kind of infraction.
We're just gonna. This is okay. We're just gonna go with this here.
Yeah, nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
So I'm like, yeah, you guys are Philly South. Don't even. So yeah, I've been to Tampa since because I won't give them any money.
Yeah, no, that's tough.
I'd rather save my money and go to a fun road trip like Vegas.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Can I go to Vegas this year? We'll see. We'll see when the schedule comes out.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the schedule to come out too. That's a good point. All right. So speaking about hockey, let's talk a little bit about. Let's just lop it off into 2 sections. We haven't spoken a lot, so give me your impression of. I mean, we had the regular season, then the first round, and we all know what happened in the second round. And what was your take on it all?
Well, 8 games in, when the whole scandal hit, I'm like, this is gonna mess with us. This is gonna be bad.
Right.
I didn't have anything against Andrew Burnett. I thought he did a great job, in that regular season. But I mean, they were great, especially the comebacks. And I was just thinking, okay, Bob needs to have his best year as a Panther. A lot's got to go right for this to work.
Right.
And then everything went right. Everybody in the division went on like a massive losing streak right around like the end of January.
Yeah.
And that's when we went on our big winning streak. And suddenly it was a 3-team race for the division. Suddenly we're 10 points up. And I'm like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
And I remember at the highest, I think the biggest lead we got was 11 points. I'll have to look at it. And right then I thought, save some for the playoffs, boys.
Yeah.
Do me a favor.
Right.
I mean, I was a little selfish for wanting them to win the division because when I was in Vegas for my anniversary last year, I put a little money on them to win the Atlantic.
Okay. All right.
So I'm like, win the division, then slow down.
Yeah.
And I thought once the playoffs started, and we were 1 for 25 on that power play against Washington, but we still pulled it out. I'm like, I'm not seeing the adjustments.
Right.
And that's why I was okay. I mean, I wasn't happy that the Panthers let go of Burnett, but I just thought it was just the same, the same lines, the same, formations, the same power play. And I'm like, it didn't work against Washington. And Tampa's a little bit better.
Yeah, just a little.
Than Washington. And even though we got swept, it's not like we got blown out. I mean, every game was close.
Yeah.
A bounce here too, especially that game 2 in the final seconds. We rang off of 2 posts in that game.
Right.
So just some bad puck luck, but the special teams came up way short and should have been able to overcome that puck luck. And that's what killed us. It was special teams.
Yeah.
Theirs were better.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but
right. Yeah. That was the biggest thing was when Ekblad got hurt and Drew came in. It was at the same time. And at that point, our power play before that happened was just buzzing, man. We were on some ridiculous pace because we had been like in the bottom third for a little while, power play wise. And suddenly we were in the top 5. We were on this ridiculous pace. Ekblad get hurt. Drew comes in. And then the thing that got me with Brunette was, and they never went back to what was working before both of those things happened. They really tried to force Drew into the lineup wherever they could. And it was the opposite of what happened with Sam Bennett. Like when this 5 minutes in with Sam Bennett and Huberdeau, we were just like, the chemistry was just like instant. You like never separate these two ever. But with Giroux, it seemed like no matter who we put him with, the chemistry just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And then on the power play, the puck movement was so slow. And to your point about adjustments, they just didn't happen. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put most of that on G. I mean, he came over from Philly, short term.
Right.
Couldn't really, and really hadn't played with these guys.
Right.
Which is why I'm kind of hoping that Zito can work some salary cap sorcery. And if he kept him around at least one more year and like had a whole off season and training camp with him, I think it would improve a lot.
Yeah.
But it's hard to come right in at the trade deadline and really gel with people.
Right.
It's tough.
And that's why I brought up Bennett, because that actually wasn't my point with Giroux. My brother was texting me when the first 5 or 6 games with Giroux, and I was telling him, give him time, the chemistry will work out. And he texted me back and said it didn't take Sam Bennett any time. And I was like, oh, that's right. So I mean, that it's a rare situation, with Bennett, but he kind of got spoiled by that.
It can happen.
It can happen, right?
It's really tough though.
Yeah.
It's not very often.
So now, what do you think? What do you think of our new coach?
Well, I mean, I didn't exactly hide my feelings when it happened. I said, my first choice was get Q reinstated. My second choice was Barry Trotz, and neither of those things happened.
Right.
I didn't really have a third choice.
Right.
With experience and everything, I guess I could go with Paul Maurice as my third option. And everybody says he's never won anything. And looking at the rosters he's had with Hartford / Carolina, I mean, that's how long he's been around. Hartford was still a thing.
Yeah.
And 2 rebuilding years with Toronto and a mediocre Winnipeg team.
Right.
He has never had even close to this much talent on paper.
No.
Ever. And that year they went to the final with Carolina with Francis and Brindamore and Cam Ward when he had his best year.
Right.
I mean, that team had talent, but no, they didn't have the depth.
No.
Not close. No. Not the scoring. So let's see what he can do with a talented roster, before passing judgment.
Right. And I was kind of the first one, not one of the first ones, but when I first looked at his record, again, this is somebody else making a point that I ended up agreeing with. When I first looked at his record, I'm thinking, 24 years, whatever it is, and he hasn't, he's got a couple first place and 1 championship and no cups, a lot of playoff appearances. And then somebody I believe it might have been Kirby, but if I'm mistaken, I apologize. But somebody tweeted out a response to that basically and showed, because everybody wants Trotz, right? Trotz. Because but they showed like Trotz had 20 something years, just like Maurice did, of almost like the same type of situation before Trotz finally won a cup.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I mean, part of it for me is like I'm counting it up, and it's just like, hey, I've been doing the videos for 6 seasons, and this is the 6th coach, dude. 6 seasons, it's 6 coaches. And when you look at it from that far out, it's like, how are we supposed to have success like that? I mean, that's every year basically on average.
Yeah.
And so I was okay. At first, I kind of looked at Maurice's history and I was like, oh man. But when I heard him talk, what I liked about his press conference was, I mean, coaches will say this, the right things, but he really pinpointed it. He was like, our play with when we don't have the puck. We need to be smarter when we don't have the puck. And if you could have wrapped up what happened against Tampa in one sentence, that was exactly it. That was exact. So when he said that, I was like, okay, at least he gets it, right? Because I kind of contrasted that to Brunette, who was literally just saying, well, I'm learning as I go. This is on-the-job experience. And I'm like, yeah, but we want to win now. I mean, we kind of want to, it was a tough position he got put into. No doubt.
Yeah. And he hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Yeah, I know.
The Panthers are they said they're going to offer him a job with the team and nobody else is hiring him. I'd like to see him stick around. Yeah. Experience was his only problem, but if he sticks around, get some more of that, that knowledge and that experience, I think he can be a good head coach.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is why I wanted Coach Q back. I said, bring Q back, let him coach for a couple of years, and then maybe give Brunette another shot when it's time to move on from Q. But that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Bettman has said Q's at least another year or two, I believe. Yeah. And so I don't know how that's ever going to go down that way. I mean, it's just that whole thing is just a mess. It is. The whole situation is just a mess.
And if he ever does come back to any team, it does not our team necessarily. It's going to be a ton of like backlash. It's going to be a PR nightmare. It's going to be baggage.
Yeah, no, he's going to have to do something, or he's going to have. The only thing I thought about was if he somehow communicated with Beach and actually had a conversation to the point where Beach himself would come out and say, "Hey, look, I've forgiven, let the man," you know what I mean? That's really the only way something like that, I think, could happen for whoever he went, because like you said, there's going to be a backlash. And if there's one thing sports franchises will try to do is they'll try to make the safe pick. So I wanted to get your thought here a little bit on some of the offseason, the roster stuff, because boys, it already started. First, we lose Mammon, who I got to assume that Mammon really must have family or something in Russia, because why would he want to? He had to have other suitors, even if they weren't ours.
Yeah. It could be family situation. He could just want to be there. I mean, wanting to play for someplace where you're comfortable, that can sway a player.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of hoping we get Chychrun's son, when his contract is up. It's not up this year. I believe it's up next year.
It's up. Yeah, he's got
Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? He's from Boca. He's from here. His dad works in the broadcast team. I said, I bet you we can get him for a hometown discount.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
that kind of thing.
There's so many moving parts now, because now with Mammon gone, that made Marchment more important. But I'm hearing all this buzz about, Marchment maybe thinking, people thinking 4x4 with him. And I had kind of been thinking 3x3 during the season. But then now we got this thing with Duclair where it's like, I want Duclair to slip on the ice in January and have a setback so we can leave him on LTIR for the whole season. Because if we don't, it's going to cost us a player. And it's
just leave him on LTIR. Just don't activate him. Like what Vegas did with Mark Stone down the stretch when they still had a chance. They're like, he's ready, but we're not going to activate him yet. If we get to the playoffs, boom, he's in.
Right.
And I think that's what the Panthers should do, and use that $3 million of room to, make moves.
Yeah, well, we're going to need it because
Yeah, exactly.
I, you know,
6.1 million in dead cap this year between Scott Darling and Keith Yandel.
Jeez. Yeah.
So 82 million and 6.1, boom, just out the window. Right away.
And it's at the worst possible timing because, you know, Zito said he was going to work on the guys with expiring contracts. He wants to work on that this summer. Yeah. And we went through the whole season and it was like, well, we got the Uyghur decision. Huberto's got 1 year left. But what I didn't think about the entire season until I was doing research for a video is that Spencer Knight, he's on an expiring contract.
Yeah.
Now I know he'll be an RFA, but he's
that's
still
not so bad.
right. No, well, there's still, but I mean, you know, when you're in our situation, every extra million here or there is gonna matter this year. So I don't know. And now with the Duclair thing, I know there's been the talk about the Panthers have been trying to make a move to trade Bobrovsky, but
hearing whispers, I've heard whispers Chicago might be interested.
Well,
we'll see.
Right. Well, then, and plus he's got to waive the clause too. And that's the other thing. What in a perfect world, what would happen if you were the GM? What would happen?
Well, any trade for Bobrovsky would have to depend on how much salary and salary cap we eat.
Yeah.
If the other team takes it all, I would legit trade him for a conditional pick. Mm-hmm. Like if the team makes the playoffs, it'll be like a third rounder. If they made the finals, it would be a first, something like that.
Right.
But the more cap and salary we retain, you got to give us a player. You got to give us, assets, right. Whatever that might be. I saw something on Facebook. Somebody proposed, one of those fan proposals. We would get Ottawa's 7th pick and retain half the cap and salary of Bobrovsky and trade him to Ottawa. I'm like, well, first off, he wouldn't agree to go to Ottawa.
No.
If Bob does waive the no trade clause, it's either going to be to a contender,
right? I
would think, or to a place he just really wants to be.
Right. Not my Edmonton. It fits. Edmonton needs a goalie.
They do need a goalie.
They need it. And somebody on this stream made a good point that maybe Bob can sell his, because he's married with the kid now. So if the wife doesn't want to go, he ain't going anywhere. And what we've already fixed that though. Bob can tell his wife that he wants his daughter to grow up in the cold weather like he did in Russia. So they're going to Edmonton.
I mean, that was the biggest reason we got Luongo back. It wasn't even Luongo. It was his wife.
Yeah.
Who was sick of Vancouver. She's like, okay, get a trade. And the rumor was either Florida or Tampa.
Right. Wow.
So that the kids can go back, to their schools and their friends and all that.
Right.
Thank God he didn't go to the Lightning. I don't think I could have handled it. Seeing him in a Lightning jersey.
No.
Spare me, please.
That'd have been too much, man. I mean, I already had to deal with Jason Taylor in a Jets uniform. I don't think I could deal. I don't think I could do it.
That was bad.
That was tough, man. That was tough. But and remember, the Dolphins, Thurman Thomas played a season with us too. So imagine how the Bills fans felt.
Man.
As an athlete is aging, and they start popping in this little team, that little team for that, it gets weird, man. It gets really weird. But for me, my biggest thing is wanting, because Luosterainen needs a deal too.
Yeah.
And so, I'm looking at our center depth and everything, and numbers wise, the one name that keeps coming up in conversation that I really don't like the prospect of losing is Hornquist. I love him to death. But 5.3 for a fourth line player is a lot of cheddar.
Yeah, it is.
That's tough.
And how many years does he have left? I think 2.
I think it's just this one more season.
Just this one?
Let me look. Well, I got you. Let me look.
Yeah, I thought it was 2, but I'd be happy to be wrong on that.
I believe this is it. Let's see. Must have already looked it up. All right. Hornquist contract pays him 5.3 per season through the end of the 22-23 season. So yeah. So then this is his last year.
Yeah. So between that and the dead cap, I'm like, if we can some crazy how get through this year, I mean, there's 11 million in cap room right there.
Right. Which is why I feel it's important at this point to kind of use that Duclair injury and make the best of a bad situation.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
People are saying he can come back for almost, maybe the last 30 games like Huberdeau did, but Huberdeau's a different player, and Duclair he's nothing without that burst of speed. And I would rather see him just continue to rehab and get faster and get, and get more ready in case we made the playoffs. Because literally, if we try to hold on to him, he's going to, that money and that could be the difference between Mason Marchment and no Mason Marchment.
Right.
And this is the only year we really have the hardship. You know what I mean? We can make it work in the years past, because even if we keep a Hornquist, if we re-sign him, it's going to not be 5.3. You gotta, you know what I mean?
2 if he's lucky.
Right. And that leads me to the last thing. I kind of made a video about this the other day, and I've been preaching about, during the season, is that at some point we're going to need some of these young draft picks, Danisenko, Heponiemi, Hutsko, Sam. We're going to need some of these kids to come up and play well at a cheap price, because you just can't constantly have your team be, it's great to have the Verhaeghes and to get, the Reinhardts on nice deals, but you can only have so many of those if you're going to pay your goalie $10 million. And I'll give you the last word there.
Yeah, that's like the last bit of Dale Talon's influence on the team, those draft classes. I'm not sure who drafted Sordif and Sarah Noel, if that was Dale Talon's last draft, or if it was Zito's first.
It was Zito's first, yeah.
Okay, because I've been watching that, some of them guys down in juniors.
Right.
And wow.
Good.
I mean, it was against boys.
Right.
And there'll be an adjustment. But sort of in particular, I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, I think he can jump the minors.
Okay.
And make the big club this year. Right. And that would definitely help. It would give Zito more flexibility. He could maybe, lose a few pieces here, trade them out.
Right.
But I agree with you 100%. Those young kids have to hit. Those have to be good picks because of the deals that Zito has made. No first round pick, no second round pick.
I know.
This year, I think we don't have a first the next year either. We have a second and no third. So you're only getting one pick in the first 3 rounds. I'm like, the picks you've already made and the prospects you got, you better hit on, I'd say at least half of them.
Right. Or you're going to have to start trading, at some point, some of these assets that we have, you got to, like you said about the Bobrovsky thing, you got to start getting some picks back and everything like that. And
if we got to retain salary, we need to get assets back.
Yeah.
They're like, I'll give them a conditional pick. Like, just take the salary, get it off the books.
Right.
For a conditional pick, out the door. Boom.
I mean, we knew this was happening because we drafted, and Dale drafted Knight, and then a week later we signed Bob, and it was kind of like, but wait, we just drafted Spencer Knight, and it just, at that point, signing Bob, it just immediately created this situation that we're in, and it's just amazing that we did that. Because there were plenty of goaltenders that we could have gotten to tide us over to now if the team is thinking. I mean, in net, in the frame of the net, I think Spencer Knight is ready to take the net, and he's only going to get better at this point with more games played. His puck handling skills, however, have me scared, because
you're taking me back to that Ranger game.
Okay.
when he just stood there,
right,
and Brunette was screaming at him to get to the bench for the extra attacker, and he literally, I watched him on TV and he shrugged. I'm like, Spence, come on, what are you doing? Even in Pee-wees, they know when the coach yells the goalie over, you know what it means. What are you looking at him for?
Right. Yeah. So the way I'm looking at it now is that if we're going to have to try to part ways with Bob, it may be another year removed. I'm not saying we won't be in the cup in the cup discussion next year, but we've seen Knight when he only plays once every 10 days is not good. But when he starts playing 4 and 5 and 6 games and getting in the groove, then you start thinking, okay, this kid could be ready.
Yeah.
So, and the other part to that is I've kind of joked with Stu about this a little because I've kind of played the angle of if I'm Spencer Knight's agent, right? Right now, if I'm Spencer Knight's agent, every game Bobrovsky plays costs me and my client money because Spencer Knight's probably thinking, look, I could be Vasilevsky in a couple of years if these guys will let me play. Yeah. So, and now he needs a contract. It is a perfect hailstorm and rainstorm and a tornado wrapped in a hurricane during an earthquake. I wouldn't want Zito's job. And what a mess he's got.
Well, the one saving grace he has is Hornquist's deal is expiring. The dead cap's going to be gone. These contracts aren't due till next year. So he could work with them and get the extensions. He could get it done without getting in trouble with the salary cap. So that's one thing he's got going for him. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this year because oh boy, we'd be in trouble.
No, you don't want to get 3/4 of the way through the season and have people going, are you going to let Uyghur hit free agency? You're going to let Huberdeau hit free agency.
Right.
And we got to make sure that we can get guys like Luosterainen and really Mason Marchand is important to this team. We saw what happened we saw what happened to Lundell without Marchment because Lundell's not the muscle in that line. It's Marchment, Yeah. And I know they said Lundell's going to go work the gym and get bigger and everything. That's great. I love to see it.
That was the first thing I said after the season. I said, for him, looking at him, I said, he needs to come back to training camp with at least 10, 15 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if you can look at the difference in Huberdeau before now, it's just like, he's a Mack truck. Now I wouldn't want to run into him, man,
Yeah. When he first came out, he got the 9 games, after the draft, and then they sent him to juniors and he was mad. And I couldn't talk to him personally, but if I could, I'd have been like, look, you're 165 pounds.
Yeah.
You're going to get killed out here. In an 82-game season, you need to go back to junior.
Yep. Oh, it's like Heponiemi. I was looking at the roster for the Checkers. Heponiemi is 155 pounds.
Yeah.
That's not, it's like, dude, you need 20 pounds to be 20 pounds too light.
Yeah.
He needs to eat some burgers. So, all right, man. Well, I'm glad this worked out. This was good. Let's make sure we check this, hit it again as the season's coming to a start. For everybody watching, we had some frustrating moments because we just couldn't figure out the Wi-Fi gods were just like, no.
My phone was bad. My Wi-Fi was bad, but
right. It just wasn't working out. This worked out. So everybody really appreciate all the support. I know I had said it's taken a few days off today. That was 2 days. I took off the weekend. So this is coming out today. And
everybody needs a break.
Yeah. Well, the weather's been too nice to not go fishing, man. I mean, it's summer, but it's been like 82, 83 and low humidity. So I put the waders on. I don't even bother with the kayak anymore. I'm riding in the kayak for like 2 hours. And when I get out of it, my back is killing me. When I put the waders on, I can walk where I want pretty much because the river's only like 4 or 5 feet deep. So I can basically walk the whole river in my waders. And
I don't say to the kayaking. It's just the nice weather outside, man. It's like 95 out there. I ain't going out there.
For you guys, yeah.
I'm waiting for the sun to go down before we go to fireworks.
Yeah, right now my thing says 82 and sunny. Yeah, I know that's usually the response I get from the people.
95 and humid right now.
Yep.
I don't miss much about living in Wisconsin when I was
you guys get me
that
back
1 year in college. But
in January, when I'm saying 18 and you're pointing at your thing going, my thing says 82 and sunny. So it comes back around. So
yeah, it does. But I do miss the cool, breezy summers. You know, the wind coming out the lake, it's like 62 outside. I'm like, oh, glorious.
Oh, no. It was
summertime.
We went and watched the fireworks last night. I was in a tank top and shorts, and I wouldn't call it nippy, but it was only like 68 degrees and breezy at 9 o'clock. It was perfect. It was perfect.
Sounds gorgeous.
Yep. All right.
Maybe that's why I was drawn to hockey. I get hot so easily. I'm like, let me go to the ice rink, watch a game.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right. All right, guys. We appreciate it. And we'll see you again in the next one.
All right.